Years after signing the annulment papers, Carrie thought she had moved on. She believed her husband had forgiven her and was ready to rebuild their marriage. But all of that collapsed when she walked into the office and saw him embracing her sister, lips locked in a kiss, completely oblivious to her arrival. Her eyes filled with tears as she stood frozen, watching the two people she loved the most, the man she married and the sister she grew up with, wrapped in each other's arms. In her trembling hand, Carrie clutched a positive pregnancy test. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered. "You might grow up without a father, but I'll do everything I can to give you a good life." Carrie returned to the home she had once shared with her husband, gathered her belongings, and left. Her suffering was over. There was no point staying with someone who would never love her the way she needed. As she stood lost in thought, the voice of her eldest son broke her reverie. "Mum, let's go. We've been waiting forever," said David, the older twin. Carrie blinked back into the moment. "All right, honey, just give me a second," she said, scrambling to pull herself together. "Mum's zoning out again," complained the younger twin, Darren. "No, sweetheart," Carrie said with a faint smile. "I'm just thinking about dinner." "Are you thinking about Dad again?" David asked, a hopeful spark in his eyes. "No, honey, I'm just trying to figure out what to make tonight," Carrie replied, avoiding his gaze. "Let's just have fried chicken, Mom. That way you don't have to think too hard. We'll decide for you," Darren chirped cheerfully. Carrie chuckled. "Fried chicken, huh? What about you, Dave? That sound good?" David nodded. "Yup, I want fried chicken too." "Okay then, fried chicken it is. I'll cook it tonight." "Yay, thanks, Mom," the twins cheered. "Come on, boys, let's head out before it gets too hot at the farmer's market," Carrie said, leading the way. The boys quickly followed. She helped them into her SUV and drove off. After shopping, they returned home and Carrie started preparing their requested dinner. This is so good. Mum, your fried chicken is the best," Darren said with his mouth full. "I agree, Mum. This is my favorite," David added. "Eat up, boys. We're going to bed early tonight. You have school tomorrow." "Mum, are you taking us to school again tomorrow?" asked David. "Of course," she said. "When is Dad going to take us to school? Our classmates keep teasing us, saying we don't have a dad," Darren said quietly. Carrie felt her heart ache. "Sweetheart, all kids have a dad. Yours just happens to be very busy with work. That's why I take you." "But Mom, he's always busy," David said. "Even on our birthdays or Christmas, he's never there." "Please try to understand him," Carrie said gently. "One day, when you're older and you've graduated, maybe you can go to him yourselves." "Really, Mom?" David asked, his eyes lighting up. "Of course, sweetheart. Do you think he'll be happy to see us?" Darren asked, his voice full of innocent hope. Carrie's smile faded. She didn't answer. The kids, distracted by the food, didn't ask again. The next morning, after dropping the twins off at school, Carrie headed to the small cafe she had started from scratch. It was her main source of income, and thankfully, located in a bustling corner of town that brought in steady foot traffic. "Good morning, Ms. Carrie. Someone came by looking for you earlier," said Mira, one of her staff, giggling with curiosity. "Who?" Carrie asked, brows furrowing. "I didn't get his name. He didn't look like he was from around here. Tall, good-looking, built. Definitely not local," Mira said, clearly swooning. Carrie paused, trying to recall anyone that matched the description, but came up empty. She waved it off. "If he comes back, let me know," she said, before heading into her office. Later that day, after lunch, Mira knocked on her door again. "Ms. Carrie, that guy's back. He's here at the cafe." Carrie straightened up, brushed off her apron, and stepped out with a professional demeanor. She spotted a man facing away from her, dressed in a hoodie and jeans. "Good afternoon, sir," I heard you were asking for me?" she asked calmly. The man slowly turned. Carrie froze. "Dennis?" she breathed, her stomach lurching. It was her ex-husband. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice suddenly sharp. "I finally found you," Dennis said with a smile, taking a step toward her. She stepped back instinctively. "Answer the question. Why are you here?" Dennis raised his hands in surrender. "Relax. I didn't come to fight. I just need to talk to you. It's important." "About what?" she snapped, folding her arms. Dennis let out a slow breath. "Can we not talk here? It's kind of personal." Carrie glanced around. The cafe was busy, and many customers were now staring at them, especially at Dennis. "Whatever you have to say, just say it. The sooner you do, the sooner you can leave," she said. "It's about us, our marriage." Seeing his seriousness, Carrie sighed. "Fine, follow me." She led him back into her modest office and gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Have a seat." "Thanks," Dennis said, his eyes scanning the cozy office. "I'm not surprised you didn't come back to the city. Looks like you found your peace here." "I'm happy here. I'm far from selfish people," she replied coldly. "I hope you're not talking about me," Dennis said with a half smirk. Carrie didn't answer. She wanted to throw all her resentment at him, but knew it wouldn't matter. "So, what do you want? Say it now. I have work to do," she said, her tone hardening. "I came to set you free," Dennis said, exhaling. "I know you're happier without me, and honestly, I think we'll both be better off if we finally dissolve the marriage that only exists on paper now." Carrie stared at him, the words hitting her harder than expected. She had imagined this moment, but not like this, not with him asking so directly. Part of her wanted to give him what he asked, but then there were the twins. He didn't know about them. "Is that really what you want?" she asked quietly. "I want to marry Melissa once our annulment goes through," Dennis said with clarity in his voice. Carrie saw the light in his eyes when he said her sister's name, and it cut like a knife. After all this time, Melissa was still the only woman in his heart. "I see," Carrie said, forcing a composed nod. She masked the hurt with grace. "So, you're okay with signing the papers?" Dennis asked with a smile. Carrie didn't respond. "What's the problem now?" Dennis stood up, frustration brewing. "Why won't you agree to this annulment? This marriage is nothing. I never loved you, not even for a second." Carrie clenched her fists, her emotions boiling, but her voice stayed level. She wanted to scream the truth, that she was trying to protect their children. "This may mean nothing to you," she said, "but it's the only thing that still connects us." Dennis looked away, sighing in exasperation. "Carrie, I'm not just doing this for Melissa and me. I'm doing it for you too. You're still young. You'll meet someone better, someone who actually wants to be with you. One day you'll be glad we ended this." Carrie slowly shook her head. "No matter what you say, I'm not signing." Dennis's expression darkened. The charm vanished. He gripped her arm tightly. "What's your problem? Do you want money? Is that what this is about? Just say how much, and I'll give it to you. Just let me go," he yelled. Carrie's other hand flew up and slapped him hard across the face. "Get out! Don't you ever come back! We'll separate when I say so. Give me time to forget I was ever your wife, and once I do, I'll never let you back into my life," she cried, voice shaking. Dennis staggered slightly, stunned, staring at her tear-filled eyes. Her pain was raw. He loosened his grip on her arm and slowly stepped away. Carrie's tears flowed freely now, but she didn't look away. He left without another word. As Dennis walked away, Carrie's quiet tears turned into heavy sobs. She stared at the red mark left on her arm, her emotions crashing in waves. She loved him, but it was clear now. He had never loved her. His heart had always belonged to her sister, but Carrie refused to give him everything, refused to let go of the one thing that legally kept them bound, their marriage certificate. She couldn't lose all connection, not yet, not while their children had no voice. She leaned her elbows on the desk and buried her face in her palms, her thoughts spiraling into the past. Flashback, several years ago. "Carrie, are you home?" Melissa's voice rang through the phone. "Yeah, just got back from campus," Carrie answered. She was in her final semester of business management at a university in Illinois. "Can you go check on Dennis at his place? He's sick, and there's no one with him." Carrie frowned. "Shouldn't you be the one there? You're his girlfriend." "I'm slammed with work, Carrie. Just this once. Bring him food. Make sure he takes his meds." Before Carrie could respond, the line went dead. She sighed. She was overwhelmed too, but couldn't say no. Dennis had always been kind to her, like a brother, and their families were close. After changing out of her clothes, she headed to his apartment. When she arrived, the place was a mess. She started cleaning the living room, then the kitchen. Once it was tidy, she began preparing chicken soup. With a tray in hand, she knocked on the bedroom door. It was slightly open. She peeked in and gasped. Dennis was trembling with fever, drenched in sweat under his blanket. The air conditioning was off, yet he shivered. "I'm freezing," Dennis murmured when she tried to lift the blanket. "You're burning up," Carrie said, touching his forehead and neck. "Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" "Number, just give me the medicine. Did you bring it?" "I did, but you need to eat first." Dennis didn't respond. Carrie helped him sit up and gently fed him spoonfuls of soup. When he finished, she gave him the meds and wiped him down with a cool towel to bring down his temperature. Eventually, he drifted off to sleep. Carrie curled up on the sofa in his room, too tired to drive back home. The next morning, a loud voice startled her awake. Dennis sat up groggily as Elizabeth, his mother, stormed in. "What on earth is going on here?" she screamed. Her eyes darted from Dennis, shirtless in boxers, to Carrie, curled up on the couch. "Mom, what are you talking about?" Dennis asked. You and this girl, sleeping in the same room. You're half naked." "Mom, please calm down." Elizabeth turned to Carrie. "What did you do to my son?" Carrie stood there, frozen. "Ma'am, it's not what you think. Melissa asked me to check on him, that's all." "She sent you? Why? She knows you're a woman and he's a man, and she's his girlfriend." "She was busy," Carrie said softly. "That's no excuse. You're graduating this year, right? Don't you have enough on your plate? Melissa works for her family's company. She could have left early. You had no reason to be here." Carrie was speechless. The woman had a point. "Well, get yourselves cleaned up. I'll make breakfast," Elizabeth muttered before leaving. Dennis gave Carrie a reassuring glance and squeezed her hand gently, as if to say, "Don't worry." Later, as they sat down at the breakfast table, Elizabeth dropped another bomb. "You two are getting married. End of story." Both Dennis and Carrie gaped at her. "What?" Dennis shouted. "No, Mom, I'm not even done with school yet," Carrie added, panicking. "I'm a woman too, Carrie. I know how cruel people can be. I won't let your name be dragged through the mud," Elizabeth said sternly. "Nothing happened between us," Dennis protested. "Melissa is her sister. What would our families think?" "You should have thought of that before sleeping here. I don't care what either of you says. You're getting married," Elizabeth declared. "Ma'am, I swear, I slept on the couch. I don't even know how I ended up in the bed," Carrie stammered. "You should have said no in the first place," Elizabeth snapped. "You're not related. You shouldn't have spent the night." "Mom, we've explained already. Melissa told her to come. There's nothing between us," Dennis said, defending Carrie. "I don't care. I'll handle the wedding arrangements," Elizabeth said. "Tita, please, I haven't graduated yet. and I don't want to hurt my sister. She might think I stole her boyfriend," Carrie pleaded through tears. "Ma'am, this will ruin everything between me and Melissa, and Carrie's relationship with her family," Dennis added, but Elizabeth wouldn't hear it. "You were in the same room all night. What do you expect me to think you were doing? Staring into each other's eyes?" she said sarcastically. No matter how much Dennis and Carrie explained, Elizabeth held tight to her own conclusions. Carrie's hands trembled as Dennis walked her to the car. He didn't come inside her house, probably to avoid tension. As she stepped through the front door, Carrie found her entire family gathered. Her father sat stiffly in his chair. Her mother stood beside Melissa, who was crying. Carrie lowered her head. "Dad, Mom, I can explain." Her father stood and slapped her across the face. "You disgrace this family, with your sister's boyfriend of all people?" he shouted. Carrie trembled. "Dad, please, it's not what you think." Melissa stood and stared at her with disgust. "Explain? You were in bed with him. I told you to take care of him, not seduce him." "That's not what happened. Why don't you ask him?" "I don't need to. You've always liked him. Admit it," Melissa yelled before storming upstairs. Jenny, their mother, followed after her. "Melissa, please, let your sister explain." "No, she's disgusting. A homewrecker," Melissa screamed. Carrie collapsed into tears. If only they had believed her, just once, maybe none of this would have happened. "You see what you've done to your sister?" Albert snapped, his voice full of rage. He raised his hand to strike Carrie again, but Jenny stepped in. "Albert, stop. You don't need to hit her," she said, holding him back. "This is why she turned out like this. You're always defending her. She seduced her own sister's boyfriend," he yelled, glaring at Carrie with pure disdain before storming up the stairs. Carrie stood there, feeling like the most worthless woman on earth, even though she hadn't done anything wrong. Jenny wrapped her arms around her. "Sweetheart, what really happened?" she asked softly. Carrie told her mother everything. Jenny believed her, but didn't know how to convince Albert or Melissa. Days passed. Carrie watched Dennis try to win Melissa back. No matter how hard he tried, Melissa refused to speak to him. Eventually, she left the country, breaking Dennis's heart. Still, both families insisted on the wedding. Albert, deeply disappointed in Carrie, wouldn't take no for an answer. After the wedding, Carrie moved into Dennis's condo. They lived together, but not as a couple. Dennis kept his distance. He wouldn't even eat with her. One evening, Carrie approached him with a bottle of wine. "Can we talk?" she asked gently. "What about?" he replied coolly. "About us," she said. "I know you never wanted this marriage. That's why. I think we should annul it. You should go to Singapore. I'm sure Melissa is still waiting for you." Dennis gave a bitter smile. "You think it's that easy? I saw your sister. She's already with someone else. So why don't you just stay quiet and do the chores? We're not getting divorced. No matter what happens, you'll suffer as my wife." Carrie's eyes filled with tears as he turned away. She felt like a bird in a cage, trapped, voiceless, hopeless. Days went by, and Dennis became harsher, colder. He hurt her emotionally every single day. Then one night, everything changed. Dennis came home drunk. One thing led to another, and they ended up in bed together. The next morning, as they lay silently under the same blanket, Dennis whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't know I was your first." "It's okay," Carrie said quietly. "We're married, right? This is normal." Dennis smiled softly and reached for her hand. "Thank you for putting up with me. From now on, I'll try to be a better husband." Carrie cried and hugged him. As days passed, their relationship changed. They grew closer. Dennis became gentler, more present. Carrie started to believe maybe, just maybe, he was learning to love her. They shared many intimate moments, and eventually, Carrie discovered she was pregnant. With the pregnancy test in hand, she headed to Dennis's office, heart pounding with nervous excitement. But the moment she walked through the door, her heart shattered. There was Melissa, sitting on Dennis's lap, kissing him like they had never been apart. The tiny hope Carrie had clung to vanished. She quietly turned around and walked out. She went straight to the bank, emptied her savings accounts, returned home, and packed her things. Without saying a word, she left town. She drove until she reached a quiet rural community in North Carolina. There she started her life over. End of flashback. Carrie squeezed her eyes shut, trying to block the memories. She needed to be strong for her children. Back in New York, Dennis returned to the apartment he now shared with Melissa, who greeted him with a kiss. "How did it go?" "Did you see her?" Melissa asked eagerly. "I did. She refused to sign the annulment," Dennis replied flatly. "What? You let her refuse? That whole trip was a waste. You traveled all that way for nothing," Melissa yelled. "I'll go back. I'll convince her, whatever it takes." "You better. If you have to go there every day just to get her to sign, do it. Otherwise, I'll go myself." Dennis didn't respond. Sometimes he couldn't recognize the woman Melissa had become. "Are you listening to me?" she snapped. "I just want to rest," Dennis said, brushing past her. Melissa grabbed his arm. "Wait, maybe she didn't sign because you didn't actually make her. What's the real reason? Do you still have feelings for that homewrecker sister of mine?" "That's enough," Dennis snapped. "I'm tired. I don't want to fight." "Fine, do whatever you want. I'm leaving," she said, kissing him quickly before storming out. Dennis sat down on the couch and sighed. Melissa and Carrie were complete opposites. Melissa loved attention and being out with friends. Carrie was content with a quiet life, and that confused him more than anything, because as time went by, he found himself missing Carrie. He liked being around Melissa, sure, but Carrie gave him peace. He slapped his forehead. It was wrong to compare them, but he couldn't help it. He walked to his room and lay on the bed. As soon as he closed his eyes, Carrie's tear-streaked face filled his mind. He wanted to wipe her tears, hold her, protect her, but he couldn't. The confusion inside him deepened. He had asked for the annulment so he could marry Melissa. But now, some part of him didn't want to lose Carrie completely. He didn't even know how he truly felt about her anymore. Maybe he never did. The following day, Carrie picked up the twins from school as usual, but something was wrong. When she arrived, the security guard told her the boys were in the counselor's office. Heart pounding, she rushed there, and her breath caught when she saw them. David had a busted lip, and Darren had a bruise on his cheek. "What happened?" she asked, kneeling down, eyes darting between them. "Sorry, Mum, we didn't start the fight," Darren said. "They ganged up on David, so I jumped in." "I told you two not to get into trouble," she said softly, checking their faces for more injuries. "But Mum, they started it," Darren insisted. "They keep making fun of us because we don't have a dad. They said we're nobodies." "Yeah," David added. "They push us around and call us names. Every day." Carrie felt a lump in her throat. "Where's our dad, Mom?" Darren asked, looking up at her. "Why is he never around?" David stayed silent, but his eyes were fixed on her, wanting the same answer. Before she could reply, a shrill voice interrupted. "Maybe if their dad was actually around, they wouldn't be so disrespectful," said a woman standing behind her. It was Elizabeth Turner, the former owner of a nearby cafe that had gone out of business shortly after Carrie's opened. Carrie stood and turned to face her. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," Elizabeth snapped. "Maybe if they had a father, they'd learn some manners. And maybe if you raised your kids right, mine wouldn't have to defend themselves," Carrie shot back. You're blaming my son?" Elizabeth's eyes narrowed. "Instead of apologizing, you play the victim?" Carrie glanced at the other 3 boys nearby, the ones who had clearly started the fight. Their injuries were worse than her son's. "Do you even know what your kids have been doing? You act like they're angels." The argument was escalating quickly, and soon the school principal arrived. "Ladies, please," he said firmly. "This matter is between the students. Let's keep it from becoming more than that." "My son was beaten," Elizabeth barked. "Ma'am, we've reviewed the footage. It shows your son initiating the fight. He pushed one of Carrie's children first, and then called them names. The other 2 joined in." "Oh, so now you're taking sides?" Elizabeth shouted. "We're not taking sides. We're presenting facts. If anything, Carrie has every right to file a complaint." Elizabeth scoffed. "Unbelievable. This school is pathetic." The principal turned to Carrie. "Would you like to file a report, Ma'am?" Carrie shook her head. "Number, I just want this to end. I'll talk to my boys." Elizabeth stormed out, dragging the other 2 mothers with her. "Thank you," Carrie said quietly. The principal nodded. "Let's hope this was the last incident." Carrie took her children home, and once they were inside, she sat them down on the couch. "David, Darren, you shouldn't have done that." "But Mom, they were hitting us. I had to defend my brother," Darren said, lowering his eyes. "You should have told a teacher." "We did, but the bullies just got worse. If we don't fight back, they'll never stop," David said, voice hard. Carrie looked at both of them. "Mum, where is Dad really?" Darren asked again. "We don't even know his name. Everyone else has a dad at home. Why don't we?" Carrie swallowed, struggling to speak. She wanted to tell them the truth, but feared it would only bring more pain. "If we don't protect ourselves, who will?" David asked. "We don't even have him to help us." "You do have me," Carrie said, "and I promise I'll always protect you." "That's why we fought back, Mom," Darren said. Carrie sighed and pulled them into a hug. "Just promise me, you'll always come to me first. Fighting should be the last resort." They nodded against her chest. That night, after dinner and a bedtime story, Carrie tucked them in and turned off the light. "Good night, boys," she said softly. "Good night, Mom," they replied in unison. Carrie stepped into the living room, staring out the window at the moonlit sky. She wanted to give them peace, but it was clear now, something had to change. They needed their father, and she had to face the truth. Keeping him away forever wouldn't protect them. Tomorrow she would do what she had avoided for years. She would give Dennis what he asked for, even if it broke her heart. The next day, Carrie woke early, prepared breakfast, and got the twins ready for school. Just as she was about to leave, a familiar figure stepped through the door of the cafe. Dennis. "What are you doing here again?" Carrie asked, cold and sharp. Dennis didn't reply right away. He just smiled, a smile that still stirred something in her, though she fought to ignore it. "I want to talk to you." "I'm busy, say it fast," she said, tightening her apron. "It's about the annulment." Carrie blinked. "That again?" "Give me the papers." Dennis looked taken aback. "You're signing them?" "Yes, now give them to me." He hesitated, then pulled out the documents from his bag. She signed them without reading. "There, it's done," she said. Dennis stared at her in disbelief. "I hope this is the last time I ever see you," she added. "Please don't come back here again." "Carrie," he said, his voice low. "I didn't expect it to feel this bad." "We both got what we wanted," she said, avoiding his eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you," Dennis said, reaching for her hand. She pulled away. "Don't touch me." "You left me, and now you're telling me to leave again?" he asked, his voice rising slightly. You made your choice when you went back to Melissa. Carrie snapped. You gave her everything you never gave me. Dennis stepped closer. That night, when we were together, you never said how much you meant it. I didn't know. Carrie let out a bitter laugh. Would it have mattered? I don't know, he admitted. Carrie smiled sadly. Let's pretend you do know. Let's pretend I'm begging you. Dennis, please don't leave me. I need you. I love you. I can't bear to see you with someone else. She paused, then dropped the act. Is that what you wanted to hear? Dennis stared at her. Well, there, now go, she said, her voice cracking. They stood in silence until the sound of little footsteps broke it. Mom! Darren and David called out, running into the cafe. Mom, you were late! Carrie froze, her breath caught in her throat. Dennis turned to look at them, and time stopped. The two boys stood in front of him, mirror images of himself. His eyes widened. He gripped the back of a chair for balance. Carrie, she quickly composed herself. Boys, go to my office. I'll be there in a minute. But Mom, David started, pointing at Dennis. Carrie cut him off. Now, the twins obeyed, glancing curiously at Dennis as they walked away. He stared at Carrie. They're mine. You're out of your mind, she said. Carrie, they look exactly like me. It's none of your business. You're their mother, and I'm their father. That makes it my business. They don't need you, she said. I need them, he whispered. Carrie shook her head and turned away. Leave. Dennis stayed in the cafe for another hour, drinking a coffee he barely touched. Carrie ignored him the whole time. That afternoon, when she and the boys were about to head home, Dennis reappeared outside. Going somewhere? He asked. Don't start, she warned. The twins looked back and forth between them. Mum, is he really our dad? Darren asked. Carrie didn't answer. Please don't lie to us again, David added. Carrie exhaled slowly. Get in the car. But Mom, now. They obeyed. Dennis stepped closer. They deserve to know me. They deserve peace, not a man who shows up out of guilt, Carrie said through clenched teeth. I didn't know. Exactly. You didn't know because you never cared to ask. Dennis's eyes clouded with pain. I'm going home. Don't follow us, Carrie said, getting into the car. The boys stared out the window as she drove, quiet for once. Dennis stood on the curb, watching them disappear. Mum, why are you mad at Dad? David asked softly from the back seat. Carrie tightened her grip on the steering wheel. He's not your dad, she said quickly, eyes fixed on the road. You don't have to lie to us, David replied, voice calm. We already know. Carrie didn't speak. She couldn't. By the time they got home, the sun was starting to set. Carrie unlocked the front door, still shaken. As she stepped inside, she froze. Dennis was already there. The twins ran in behind her and stopped. Dad! Darren called out. Carrie spun around. What are you doing in my house? Dennis looked sheepish, almost guilty. The kids let me in. I just wanted to see them. You had no right, she said. I needed to talk to them. Talk outside. You're trespassing. Dennis took a slow step toward her. They're my kids. Carrie stood her ground. You gave up that right when you walked away from me. But we didn't know he was our dad, Darren interrupted, looking confused. We thought he was just busy all the time. Isn't that what you said, Mom? Carrie swallowed, her voice faltering. Sweetheart. You lied to us, David said quietly. Carrie's heart shattered at the look on his face. The twins turned to Dennis, eyes wide with questions. Where were you all this time? Why didn't you come home? I didn't know about you, Dennis said, kneeling. I wish I had. If I had known, I would have been here every day. The boys looked at each other. Then, without another word, They both ran and hugged him. "I missed you, Dad," Darren said. Carrie's legs went weak. She leaned against the wall, unable to hold back tears. Dennis glanced up at her. "Thank you for raising them. You did everything by yourself, didn't you?" "I did what I had to," she said, voice raw. "Even if I had to lie." "You did more than that," Dennis said. "You made them good boys." Carrie turned away, heading into the kitchen. "You're here now. Let's eat." "I ordered takeout," Dennis said, following her. "Your favorite place." She didn't look at him, but her silence was answer enough. Over dinner, the twins were full of energy, asking Dennis questions, telling stories, laughing louder than usual. He soaked up every moment, smiling as he fed them and teased them. Carrie stayed quiet, eating slowly, watching from across the table. "Mom, this is fun," Darren said. "Can Dad sleep over?" "Yeah, he can take us to school tomorrow," David added. Carrie opened her mouth to object, but Dennis cut in first. "I'll take them," he said gently, "if it's okay." Carrie nodded once, then got up to clean the table. Later that night, after showers and pajamas and cartoons, Dennis read the twins a bedtime story. Carrie watched from the doorway as he tucked them in, his voice soft. When they were asleep, she stepped into the hallway. Dennis met her by the kitchen. He looked out the window into the dark. "I wish I could turn back time," he said. "I would have looked for you sooner." Carrie said nothing. "I can't change the past, but I want to be here now. I want to make it right." "You can't stay," she said quietly. "I'm not asking for you," he replied. "I'm asking for them." Carrie looked away. "They'll only get hurt again." "I won't let that happen." She didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed a spare pillow and blanket and handed them to him. "You can sleep on the couch," she said. Dennis took them and nodded. "Thank you." When she went to her bedroom and closed the door, she leaned against it and let silent tears fall. Dennis lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The dim glow from the kitchen nightlight cast long shadows across the room. Every now and then, he glanced at the hallway, wondering if Carrie was still awake too. The next morning, Carrie woke to the scent of breakfast. She stepped into the kitchen and stopped cold. Dennis stood by the stove, still in his undershirt and sweatpants, flipping pancakes while coffee brewed nearby. "Good morning," he said with a slight smile. "Hope you don't mind. I made breakfast." Carrie crossed her arms. "Where are the boys?" "Upstairs, changing. I already helped them with brushing their teeth." Carrie didn't respond. She pulled out a chair and sat down. Soon the twins came running into the kitchen. "Mom, Dad made breakfast." "Look, he even cut the pancakes into shapes." Carrie stared at her plate. The pancakes were in the shape of smiley faces. "Eat up, boys. You'll be late," she said. "Are you coming with us today, Mom?" David asked. "Not today. I have an early delivery at the shop." "Then Dad can take us, right?" Darren asked eagerly. Dennis glanced at Carrie. She hesitated for a second, then gave a curt nod. "Yes," she said, "but don't be late." After they finished eating, Carrie handed Dennis the boys' lunch boxes. "Don't forget these." He took them carefully. "Got it." When they left, Carrie watched them from the front window, Dennis holding each boy's hand as they walked to the car. She felt a pang in her chest. Later that morning, Carrie arrived at the school with a delivery for one of the staff. As she walked through the hallway, she overheard laughter and chatter from the classroom. Curious, she peeked in and froze. Dennis was sitting in the middle of a group of children, smiling awkwardly as he answered their questions. The teacher was nearby, chuckling. "That's our dad," Darren said proudly to a few classmates. "Told you he's real." "Yeah, he's cool, right? Looks like us, huh?" David chimed in. The kids murmured in awe, some giggling. Carrie didn't realize she was smiling until one of the teachers noticed her. "Carrie," she said warmly, "didn't expect to see you today." "I had a delivery," she said, stepping into the room. Dennis looked up. Their eyes met briefly. "Carrie, your husband's a hit. The kids can't get enough of him," the teacher joked. Carrie forced a polite smile. "That's great." The bell rang, and the kids scattered back to their desks. Dennis stood up and walked over to her. "I thought you were working," he said. "I was nearby. They forgot their gym bags." "Guess we're both learning what it's like to be full-time parents," he said, smiling. Carrie didn't answer. She handed him the bags and turned to go. He didn't follow. Dennis spent a full week in North Carolina. When he finally returned to New York, he was greeted not with relief, but fury. "You finally decided to come home," Melissa said as she opened the apartment door. "I just need some rest," Dennis replied, brushing past her. She followed him inside. "You were gone a week. No calls, no texts. What the hell, Dennis?" "You know exactly why I went there, Mel," he said flatly. "Then why didn't you answer me? Were you with her the whole time? Are you back together? Where are the annulment papers?" Dennis said nothing. He realized he had left them behind, maybe on purpose. "So you're saying you regret this now?" Melissa demanded. "Tell me the truth. What happened in North Carolina?" "I don't want to fight, Mel. I'm exhausted," Dennis said, heading to the bedroom. Melissa trailed after him. "Don't walk away from me. Did you see her? Did you stay with her?" Dennis didn't answer. He just shut the door. He couldn't explain it. The longer he stayed near Carrie, the more confused he felt. The warmth in her home, the laughter of the boys, her quiet strength, it haunted him. The next morning, he arrived early at his office. His assistant filled him in on the backlog of work. He buried himself in it, trying to forget what he had left behind. Around noon, Melissa showed up. "What are you doing here?" he asked without looking up. "I came to see you. By the way, I sent the annulment papers to Attorney Green. You didn't tell me she already signed them." Dennis's head snapped up. "What?" "I found them at your place. You just left them sitting out." "Don't worry, I took care of it," she said with a smile. "You had no right to touch those," he said, his voice cold. "Excuse me?" Melissa blinked. "You went through my things. That wasn't yours to handle." "I'm your fiancé. I was helping." Dennis stood up and grabbed his coat. "I need to go." He walked out, ignoring her protests, and drove straight to his lawyer's office. "I'm sorry, Dennis," Attorney Green said, "but the process is already moving forward. Legally, we can't pause now, unless you have a compelling reason." Dennis left, shoulders slumped. He drove back to North Carolina that evening. When Carrie opened the door and saw him standing there, her eyes narrowed. "What now?" "I needed to be here," he said simply. Carrie didn't reply, but she stepped aside to let him in. That night, as the boys sat beside Dennis watching a movie, Carrie stood in the kitchen, preparing dinner. Dennis eventually joined her. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For raising them. For doing everything I should have done." Carrie stirred the pot silently. "I know I'm late, but I want to be here now," he said. "Don't make promises you can't keep," she said. "I mean it." He reached for her hand, and she let him. A few days later, the annulment was finalized. Carrie read the notice quietly, and then folded the paper and put it in a drawer. Dennis came in and saw her. "You're free now," she said, without looking at him. "You can marry Melissa whenever you want." "Carrie, I don't want her," Dennis said. "I want you, and our kids." "You say that now." "I should have burned those papers," he said, tears forming in his eyes. "If I'd known what I know now." Carrie interrupted. "Then don't say you love me. Not now. Not after all this." "I do. I love you, he said, pulling her into a hug. She didn't resist, but she didn't respond either. That night he kissed her, and she didn't push him away. Dennis and Carrie got married again 1 year later. The ceremony was held in a small, rustic chapel just outside Asheville, North Carolina, the same one where Carrie often brought the twins on Sundays. It was simple, intimate, just family, and this time, it felt real. After the wedding, Dennis officially moved to North Carolina for good. He left his company in New York in capable hands and decided to build a quieter life in the South. He helped Carrie expand her cafe, and they opened a second location together. David and Darren were thriving. They were no longer teased at school. They had their father now, picking them up, helping with homework, coaching Little League on weekends. Dennis often looked at them with awe. He couldn't believe how much he had missed, but he was thankful for the chance to be part of their lives at last. As for Melissa, she had chosen to stay in New York. At the wedding, she had smiled genuinely as she watched them exchange vows. She had moved on and found her own peace, her own path. She even became an occasional visitor, an aunt to the boys, finally. Elizabeth, Dennis's mother, had eventually come around too. She visited during holidays and spoiled the twins like any proud grandma. That afternoon, after the guests had left and the boys were asleep, Dennis sat with Carrie on the porch of their home, the sun dipping behind the trees. "Hard to believe this is real," he said, fingers laced with hers. "It is," she replied. "Took a lot to get here." "I'm sorry it took me so long." Carrie leaned her head on his shoulder. "You're here now. That's what matters." Dennis kissed the top of her head, and they sat in silence, listening to the crickets and the breeze. Sometimes it takes losing everything to understand what really matters. But if you're lucky, life gives you a second chance, and when it does, you hold on tight.